6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have commit and we have liftoff at 2:13. 7.6 million pounds of thrust, and it has cleared the tower.
Prepare yourself for a world of consciousness. This is
Good morning, everyone. We are here on Saturday, another episode of the Science Night in the Morning.
Yes.
This is episode 2 of Science Night in the Morning, right, Sean?
We have inaugurated the single night show. We did a one night show, and now we're back again. And I'm the only night we could pull in for this episode. And it's too bad because the other guys are going to miss a great episode. I'm very excited about this episode.
We're going to go down the wormhole with this. Dr. Sean Graham is here all the way from Australia through the powers of the interwebs. Technology that is pretty up there. It's high level technology, I would say.
That's right. We're going to be talking a lot about technology on this episode.
that is true.
It's pretty integral to this episode.
Yeah, it is. And Dr. Thomas Schiller, he's out on the field, and he is in the trenches looking for dinosaur bones, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And Anirban Bhattacharjee, in India.
Yeah, he's back in India taking care of his mom for the summer.
Yeah.
But he'll be checking in from time to time. We can still get him because of the powers of technology.
Powers of technology. So let's get right on into the subject of today's show. Are you ready, Sean?
I can't wait.
Okay, today's show is all about UFOs. Unidentified flying objects, or the other word for it is aerial phenomena, right?
Yeah, the new euphemism, the new 3-letter acronym, TLA, is UAP. Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon.
Right. Yes,
so
exactly.
I love this because UFO is already a 3-letter acronym and a euphemism.
And it has a stigma.
Yeah. So now they've changed it. So it went from flying saucer to UFO, which sounds a little bit better and more scientific, to now what the military is calling these is UAPs. And this is what is so amazing about the show, because the military is talking about UAPs again.
Yes.
And now, of course, the whole world is talking about them again. Well, at least the internet is. And so
my Facebook feed is talking about them and a lot of other things that I'm not going to mention. But the UFOs, UAPs, aliens, conspiracies, yes. Bill Gates is going to shut us off.
Oh, right. Bill Gates. Wow.
And what else I got on my Facebook page? I got a lot of stuff, but you name it.
So I kind of thought what we might do is it would be kind of fun to go through to talk about this topic. I could kind of rehash what happened to me over the past 4 days when I started looking into this.
Okay. All right.
And we can kind of go through this. We can kind of dissect what you go through these days trying to find information on the internet. And I can admit some embarrassing things about myself, that my usual bullcrap detectors, my manure detectors, were a little bit shaky. And when I first looked into this, and when we talked about this 2 days ago, we were going to record this show, and I was going to go in talking about how I was convinced that some government on Earth has come up with some amazing aerial vehicles that defy the laws of physics. Mm-hmm. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It was 2 days ago.
2 days.
And I was ready to do this show and talk about that. And we're still going to talk about that. But then 2 days later, after digging even deeper and going farther down the rabbit hole, I've come back out and I've come to a different conclusion.
Very cool. Think? Well, does lizard people, does that fit in any of the conclusions?
I never suspected lizard people.
Okay. Thomas Schiller would love that because, he's all about the lizard people.
Yeah, and I've studied lizards.
There you go. You're a herpetologist, yeah.
And so So, like what I know about lizards, I never suspected lizards or lizard people.
Right.
Yeah, so that was never on the table. But so maybe we should tell people what we're talking about for those who might not be aware.
Okay.
How about we start that way?
Go ahead and start with some of the headlines, some of the stories that you read initially.
Yeah, so the big stuff came out like last summer. It was kind of a big deal. The U.S. Air Force, the U.S. military, the government released videos that they say are real videos of things they can't identify, of UAPs. Mm-hmm. And I kind of ignored it last year. Last year was crazy. So I never really jumped on and started looking at this until the 60 Minutes episode.
Right.
Which was aired, I guess, last weekend. And I just on a whim, I was like, maybe I'll just check this out. And I was blown away, as probably a lot of people were.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen the 60 Minutes episode, just put in YouTube, 60 Minutes UFOs, and it'll be the first hit.
Yeah. And that host, let me tell you, that host, he was like reading every boring research paper you've ever read in your life, but he's personified. He was serious as a heart attack. Yeah. And they've got 2 U.S. Navy pilots who flew around, which is amazing, right? It's not some quack pilot who's just trying to get attention after he retired, which, the guy by himself, what's his name? David Fravor is the F-18 pilot. He's been all over the place. He's been interviewed by Joe Rogan. He's all over the place. And by himself, he's kind of a nerd. And he comes off, you don't necessarily want to believe this guy, even though he was like a commander of an entire fleet of F-18s. He was a Top Gun pilot. The guy is kind of a nerd. Yeah. When they put him with another pilot, this female pilot, Dietrich. Oh, yeah. Who looks like Sigourney Weaver. Yeah. And would be played by Sigourney Weaver in a movie about an F-18 pilot, no doubt. When they put them together, you got to believe them. It's completely plausible. And they describe flying next to some crazy disturbance in the water, and then there's this tic-tac-shaped object that's bouncing around, and then it starts flying and mirroring the flight moves of the F-18 before vanishing. Right. And she actually says on that interview, I never wanted to be on national TV, especially with something like this. But I know it's the right thing to do because I saw it. And it is. And did you notice when she said, because it is declassified, she looked at her superiors. Yeah, she was like making sure this was okay to say. Yeah, she glanced and it's like, look, we can say whatever we want here. Yeah. And that's huge. And then, they've got this guy, Luis Elizondo, who was apparently ex-Special Forces, who was tapped to start looking into these things by the U.S. government. And he's describing, now, there's a couple things we've got to keep in mind here. We've got 3 videos released by the government that we can look at. You can look at them all you want. Get the raw footage and look at them. And then you've got all these accounts, these anecdotes by the pilots, which are really compelling, and by Luis Elizondo, who's describing that he's talking about how these are the 3 least compelling videos that are out there. Wow. That he's seen videos of these objects 100 feet from the pilots. Wow. So there's more, and he's telling us that there's a lot more where this came from, but there were 3 videos that were deemed fit to declassify that now are inspiring our speculation. And I completely pooped my pants watching this episode. And that's where the wormhole began. We'll call it the brown hole. Yeah. It just festered there, waiting for all the thoughts to go into an endless void of speculation. Now this is really what we're talking about here. This is a test case for your deductive reasoning, I would say. Right. So bring me through that. So after you saw the videos, let's describe some of the videos first. So there's 3 of them. Yeah. And they all have names which are, they're like, I've watched them 100 times now. There's what they call the Go Fast video, the Gimbal video. Right, Gimbal, and the FLIR video or the Nimitz video.
the FLIR is a 4-letter acronym that stands for forward-looking infrared, right? It's an infrared camera view of something out in the sky, and it's supposedly a video of the object that David Fravor and his co-pilot or another pilot in his group saw back in 2004. And then the Go Fast video and the gimbal video are from more recent off the Atlantic coast. And these videos are not very good. We should mention that. And a lot of UFO skeptics, that's the first thing they said. They said, look, why is it we got all this amazing technology and the 3 videos we get are blobs out in the sky? They look like crap. And that's interesting. And I want our listeners to start being skeptical like me, but I want to admit that after seeing the 60 Minutes video, my skepticism was suspended, and I made a couple of mistakes right away. I'm admitting my mistakes. As a scientist, you should be able to do that.
That's great.
I believed everything that I was being told because it was like authorities from the military and from the government. And 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes has high esteem, and they do their homework generally. So I'm believing everything Luis Elizondo is telling me about how these vehicles can go through space and water and through the air with equal, and they can bounce back and forth, and they can go 60 miles a second, which is faster than anything. I even had to look up what the speed of light was because I was like, that's got to be close to the speed of light. It's not. It's a lot slower than the speed of light, but it's faster than anything that we have. Like, it's even faster than missiles or bullets. So my head immediately jumped to some sort of advance in technology. And that comes to three options to explain this. One of which I never ever during this whole ordeal ever thought it would be UFOs or like flying saucers, like aliens. I never thought that. But as you well know, I thought the other 2 options are kind of scary also. Either that we have advanced our technology, the United States has aircraft that could do things that none of our aircraft can do, or that our enemies have done this. And that's where I was really pooping my pants. I was literally thinking, it kind of doesn't make sense for the U.S. government to reveal that we have leapfrogged the universe in terms of our aerial capabilities. To reveal it this way, it doesn't make any sense. Or maybe they don't want to reveal it, but they're having a hard time keeping a lid on this because their own pilots are seeing their testing, and so they've got to figure something out. So this leads to possible conclusion that some, like the Chinese or the Russians, have developed some sort of crazy aircraft, next generation drones that can go Mach 50 and fly. So we were talking about 2 days ago when this is where I was at. I was like, somebody's come up with an anti-gravity drive,
right?
And it may not be us. In which case, we should all start getting our Chinese phrase books out and start practicing because we're going to be in trouble. Yeah.
Well, since we landed on Mars and we have a rover, guess who was right behind us?
Yeah, but that technology sucks, So
compared to what we're talking about, yeah,
and that and people would say, it's like, look, there is kind of a precedent for this, and this is what we talked about. The precedent is, the SR-71 Blackbird, right? It's the fastest plane that ever flew, still to this day. It's got the altitude and the speed record, and it was ours. And we started flying that thing in 1966.
Wow. Yeah.
That's crazy. It's like it's an old plane.
Wow.
And so, and it was a big advance, and the stealth aircraft were a huge leapfrog over our competitors. We've been sitting on the top of the pile for 40 years because of stealth technology, and everybody knows it. Everybody who watched the videos of the opening of the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, seeing all the anti-aircraft fire, lighting up the sky where the Iraqis were just shooting blind. They couldn't see. They knew they were getting bombed, but they couldn't see the planes. The Russians, the Chinese looked at those things and said, holy crap, the Americans have leapfrogged us.
Right.
The Russians tried to shoot down SR-71s. They couldn't. They knew they were up there. They could catch them on radar, but they're flying 80,000 feet at Mach 3. There's no missile that they could fire that could take it down.
Yeah.
So if they shot a missile at our SR-71s, the SR-71s would just hit the afterburner and outfly the missiles. So we have been on top of the pile for 40 years. So it's not totally implausible. And, oh, by the way, all of that technology was secret from NASA. So where NASA could have used that technology to develop great, planes to fly into outer space or something like that, they never had access to it. So people talked about that in like the 80s and 90s. A lot of government people were like, "Hey, we gotta coordinate this better because we're just spending money. NASA's spending the same money to do the same thing you guys in the Air Force are doing, and we're wasting money." So there's a precedent for that. There's a precedent where if the Air Force or some other top secret, research facility within the U.S. Industrial military complex came up with an anti-gravity drive, they wouldn't necessarily share that with NASA that could then use it to fly to, Titan in 5 minutes.
Right.
There's a precedent for that. So that's kind of where my mind was going.
Well, what's the precedent for Mars?
For getting to Mars fast?
Yeah.
Or, it would be the same thing. It's like, if we had these things, these little planes or whatever, if they could really do what they're doing on Earth, that we're being told they can do, then we could be in Mars, and we wouldn't have to send people.
Right.
We could just send a great little probe, and because honestly, the speeds that they're talking about, they're all unmanned.
Right. Yeah. Everything.
There's no human being in that thing because they would just be crushed by the G-forces.
Yeah.
So it's either an alien in there or nothing. And my vote is for nothing.
And even if it was an alien, do you think aliens with that kind of technology would actually, it would be unmanned alien, because look, the first alien on Mars that we know of is us. We're the first alien on Mars.
And
when you think about it. We sent our drone.
Machines.
Yeah.
We sent machines. Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah. And so it doesn't have to be an alien, but I was thinking big, and I've come back from this already. But yeah, if we'd have done this show 2 days ago, we'd be talking all about anti-gravity drives, and I'd be grasping at straws because I don't know anything about that stuff, and we'd need Anirban on the show to explain to us how potentially something like that would work. But we don't have to necessarily do that because I started getting a little bit more skeptical. And I've come to the conclusion that so there's a couple things here. Things are just not adding up. And maybe the first thing we'll mention that doesn't quite add up before we kind of sneak off to a break, is to leave it as a good cliffhanger.
Okay.
Is that the three videos that we do have to look at that aren't just anecdotes with some government guy telling us that these machines can do amazing things, or these pilots and their eyeball witnessing account of what they saw. The three videos totally suck. The three released videos completely suck. And that's a little suspicious. So the three videos that the government did deem fit to declassify don't show much. They don't show anything. They show infrared blobs. And, as maybe we will get people to be interested in from coming back from the break, all three of the videos have been firmly, resoundingly been debunked.
They've been debunked.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Okay.
I'm going to put you onto that stuff. But yeah, so that's a huge curveball, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So one minute we're talking about UAVs that can go Mach 17 and fly underwater and do zigzags in midair and do circles around an F-18. And then all of a sudden, the three bits of evidence that the government deemed fit to release to the public can be explained.
Okay.
So where does that leave us?
that leaves us to a break, but we're going to be back with some answers, and we're going to put your science mind to some challenge here. Cause I'm going to look at the videos. I'm going to describe them to our listeners.
That's a good idea.
And then we're going to answer and debunk them. How's that?
That's great. That's a good idea.
Great.
Can't wait.
We'll be right back on the Science Nights. All right, everybody. Conley here with the Science Nights. I have Dr. Sean Graham with me. We have already had a great first segment. I'm like totally on the cliff right now. I have the UFO videos that were released, or no, I'm sorry, not UFO, UAP.
Yeah, it's so hard to remember.
I know.
UAP. Yeah.
They love their acronyms, man. Military.
Why do they have to change it? Yeah,
they love it. They love it. Anyway, UAP videos, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, that were released by the government. We're going to look over them. If you haven't seen them, definitely look them up, but I'm going to do my best to try to describe each of these videos. It is going to be pretty bland. I'm not going to lie. So the first video, and this one is called the Go Fast video, right, Sean?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So we're looking at it right now. There's, it's a view of the ocean. There's a really fast streak that, it's definitely a view from the ocean. There's no color. I believe it's at night, right? It's probably at night
and I think this is an infrared, but it might, it is. It says IR at the top of the video. So it's an infrared image. Whatever this is slightly warmer than the ocean.
And it looks like there's a HUD over the screen, so it's definitely something being recorded from a high-end piece of technology, a tracking device. So you have your squares and your crosshairs and your tracking HUD items that are on the interface here that's actually looking at it. And there's this little real fast streak just going over the ocean. The topography of the ocean looks absolutely amazing. And it kind of zooms in on it. And is this the same one?
No. Go back because you've gone beyond it.
Oh,
I would just pause it on the Go Fast there.
Yeah,
and then you see that the target is acquired by the targeting system of the airplane, which is kind of cool.
Right.
Is that these little bars kind of close in on it and then start tracking the object.
Right.
Going by. And then it's great because this one has this awesome audio from the pilots going, woo, when they actually acquire the target.
Yeah.
You could kind of surmise that these guys see it visually or something like that, or catching it on radar. And then when they actually get it and acquire the target, it was hard to do because it's going so fast.
Yeah.
And so they're excited about it. The pilots are like, boom, we got it. And at that point, presumably they could have shot the thing down, or they could have at least fired upon it because they've actually acquired the target with their targeting system.
Yeah, that's amazing. So
pretty cool.
It's going fast, and that's, I guess, makes sense, right? The name of the video. Now, this next one, is this
That's the gimbal video.
Okay, this is the gimbal video, and it starts really dark, too. It looks like it's above the clouds. Same HUD, very similar HUD system, slightly different on this one. But it's definitely tracking something. It kind of looks like a stain in the middle of the screen. Midway through, they switch it from infrared to, I guess, light because the colors kind of invert. Yeah. And it's just right in the middle. It's kind of rotating a little bit. And it just looks very eerie, almost angelic.
Because the object starts rotating.
Yeah.
And it's not otherwise doing much. And the pilots, again, have this commentary where they're saying it's rotating, and it actually appears to be flying against the wind, even though it's not doing very much.
Wow.
So
And then the gimbal, the last one, I believe. So it just looks like a little pill up in the sky.
Yeah, and then we've got the last one, which is the what they call the FLIR or the Nimitz video. And this is, again, the video from apparently the object that another set of pilots were scrambled to go look for the object that was seen by David Fravor, and they acquired this thing. And this is that video.
Yeah, and it just kind of looks like it's tracking a little pill, and you just don't know what it is.
The interesting thing about this video is at the very end, after they've looked at it a couple times and tried looking at it through different imagery, the object suddenly just veers off the left of the frame. It just darts away. And this is important. Yeah. This is very important.
Sure.
That you saw it. It was whoop.
Yeah.
And David Fravor, the pilot, is talking about how that is so fast it would be faster than the SR-71.
Wow. Well, these are terrible.
They're terrible.
And the thing is, about these videos, they're not like the really cool ones I see of the pyramid going under the ocean, like the they look so cool, and and
our listeners might have seen these crazy looking triangles that are glowing and pulsing.
Yep.
And those were like the easiest ones to debunk because that's obviously just a lens artifact.
Oh.
If you go and use those IR cameras, they've got a triangular shaped aperture, and if you point it at something bright, it'll flare like that. And if the bright object is blinking like an airliner, it'll blink and be a triangle. So that's the easiest one, and that's not even one of the ones. It might be one that's been it's not one of the typical ones that the U.S. government is talking about. But that one's the easiest one to debunk. The triangular guys blinking are just lights that are blinking, and it's a triangular-shaped aperture of an IR video camera. And you can mimic that same effect if you have a night vision or IR camera with a triangular-shaped aperture. And that's where I got to where I can, I was looking at these debunkers, and that's the easiest one to visually prove to somebody that's obviously a lens artifact. And this is coming from, I'll go ahead and start getting into the debunking of these videos. This dude, Mick West, who you all need to know, is awesome. Mick West is a kind of professional debunker. He just gets online and he finds like chemtrail videos and those kind of things and just works through how you can get these images from cameras. And it's nothing to do with anything else, but just something like a triangular-shaped aperture giving you a triangular-shaped artifact in your image. It's not really there. It's just a glare. And so Mick West has debunked all three of these videos pretty well. And I want to just, if you're into the internet and you want to get on YouTube, check out his videos. And here's the thing. Mick West has done a great job of debunking the Go Fast video, the gimbal video, and the FLIR video. And his videos get about 2,000 views on average.
Wow, okay.
Those numbers are almost in the garage, in the basement, almost as bad as Science Nights in the Morning's YouTube videos.
They're there.
They're an order of magnitude.
Run for their money.
Yeah, they're an order of magnitude better than Science Nights in the Morning. But, the people like Jeremy Corbell, who is like the UFO guy, who's talked, he's got Bob Lazar,
Bob Lazar.
Bob Lazar, and he's made a Netflix documentary about Bob Lazar, who supposedly worked at Area 51, who's obviously a big fat liar. Jeremy Corbell's videos get hundreds of thousands of views. And Mick West's videos get thousands of views. And it's too bad, because Mick West does a great job. And so just the Go Fast video it's amazing. All the data that's in that camera view that you see that's been declassified, there's all this information on the sides of the outlet, on the overlay or whatever. And he can take those numbers and calculate how far away that object actually was from the plane. Because the pilots were under the impression that thing was screaming by off the surface of the ocean, and it was a pretty large object. And that's what it looks like on the video. It looks like something really fast hovering right above the surface of the ocean.
Right.
But from the camera's own data, Mick West was able to figure out that object was actually flying at about 13,000 feet, pretty close to the plane, and it was actually quite small. And there is an object that can just, and he also calculated that the object isn't going very fast. The plane is going fast, and the ocean, it seems to be going by very fast, and so it's an example of parallax. It's like if you were to, and he demonstrates this really well. There's a video he posts of a balloon, like an ordinary child's balloon, that a helicopter got this image of the balloon and the background looks like it's screaming by. It looks like the balloon's just going like 1,000 miles an hour, but the balloon's just hovering, and the helicopter is going by very fast. And so it looks like the balloon is screaming past the background. And so he concludes that object is literally a balloon, probably a weather balloon that these pilots acquired. And that's all it is. And if you watch this video, he works out the math right there in front of you, and it works out perfectly. It works out beautifully, and the logic is solid, and that's what it is. That's all it is.
I hate weather balloons.
I know
they destroy my dreams.
Well, I've got more sinister balloons.
Okay, all right.
We could talk about.
Okay,
we're going to get to those. The gimbal video.
Yep. Second.
The thing is just an IR signature, potentially of a distant plane, and it's the actual rotation of the infrared camera that causes it to rotate.
Oh, God.
It's called a gimbal camera,
and
that's where the name of the video comes from. Here's the thing. The names of these videos are actually from the U.S. government.
Oh, they gave them. I see.
And so they named it the gimbal video, and that's why it rotates. And you can actually watch, as the object rotates, you can see the clouds and in the sky behind it rotate at exactly the same rate.
Yeah.
So it's actually the camera causing the rotation, not the object rotating. And the pilots were just fooled by it. And finally, the FLIR video, my favorite one, same thing. It's an infrared signature, probably of a distant plane's exhaust. And that's all it is. It's just a glare because the exhaust coming out of the back of a 747 or 737 would be bigger than the 737 itself. And it would block the view of the actual plane that's in there causing it. And it's so far away the pilots can't see it visually, and it's at night, so they certainly can't see it. So they've just got this IR plume of the 737. And then why does it zig off the side of the frame to the left so fast? Because the camera loses it, and the camera starts panning. And the object moves out of frame at exactly the same rate as the camera is panning.
Wow. Again,
it's the camera movement causing the apparent movement of the object. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the question, why did the U.S. government release these 3 videos?
Yeah.
If Luis Elizondo is saying that they've got really compelling videos, answer is they already explained these to themselves, obviously.
Oh, okay.
Right? These are the 3 that they could figure out. And they released them to the public because they know that there's nothing on them.
Oh.
So that still leaves a really amazing possibility that there are lots more videos that they have not explained.
Okay. Well, that's good.
So we're still in hot water here, but we got to get to an explanation where we can account for all of these weird things.
We're in a parallax.
we're in a weird place where some U.S. military personnel, including investigators like Luis Elizondo, are saying this is a big deal, that there are all these objects that can do amazing things out there that are potentially going to collide with our Air Force personnel. They're saying that they don't know what they are. They're out there doing maneuvers in restricted airspace, and they're seeing these things, and they can't explain it. And then what does the U.S. government release to us? 3 videos that can easily be explained by an internet debunker who gets 2,000 views on his subscribe list. So that's weird. That's an interesting thing, that the U.S. government probably has a lot more videos, and the 3 that they release are crappy, and they've already explained them to themselves. So much so that the name of the video is part of the explanation. The gimbal video has to do with the gimbal camera.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that is really cool, but you think there's some underlying machinations going on.
What are they trying to hide? Is it alien? Okay, so that's where we go farther down the wormhole. Okay, because we gotta somehow put these 2 things together. We got videos that suck that we can easily explain, but we've got firsthand eyeball witnesses of people who are saying that there's crazy things out there they can't explain. We got Navy pilots who saw, and we should focus on what David Fravor saw in 2004 off San Diego. He talks about this tic-tac-like object that's bouncing around at will, doing these crazy maneuvers that actually flew in a circle, tracking him as he started circling it, and then it vanished. And it was the size, he thought it was about the size of his own F-18 Hornet doing this. Mm-hmm. So with just that, I would say, like my gut would say, that was a drone of some kind. An amazing drone. It doesn't have to be doing supersonic speeds to do back and forth banking and to do a circular maneuver. Have you seen what drones can do now?
I'm a drone pilot. I own them. I fly them.
I thought you would know. I mean, you are well aware that drones are amazing and that they can do crazy things. Yeah. And that they can fly in formation. And they're not very costly, right? You've got one. Yes. Right?
I have a Mavic Pro 2, commercial style. Very nice one. Yeah. So and people, you know what? It really is an eye catcher because I actually, I've flown it, around people and people are just amazed. And if they are seeing it without the knowledge of me, like, flying it, they're like, oh my, what?
What is that?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
The first time I got scared of drones was I went to a Rolling Stones concert in Atlanta, I think in 2014, and they were filming the event with drones, and they were all circling around the stadium. Yeah. And it was like something out of Terminator 2, man. It was like, holy. They had so much incredible control. Oh, yeah. They could go anywhere, and they could do amazing hovering. Yep. And they're not very expensive. And so this is where we can start getting scared again, because another government could pretty easily make some pretty amazing high-tech drones that could do some amazing things and potentially kind of through this asymmetrical warfare do a leapfrog, a little bit of a leapfrog. It's a backwards leapfrog. It's like using a slingshot. It's like the U.S. government is so good at our military and with our aircraft and our technology. How do you counter that? Mm-hmm. Well, it's like coming after somebody who's got an M16 and you come at them with 100,000 people with slingshots, right? So what if you were to go after a U.S. destroyer, one of these big steel ships with all this technology, all this sonar, all this radar, and just swarm it with 50,000 drones? Right. What would that do? You wouldn't be able to sink the ship, but you could cripple it. You could make the ship useless.
You could hack the computer system on the ship.
Potentially. And you know what? Somebody did that to a U.S. fleet of destroyers recently. Really? And this is where I'm really going down somebody's drones swarmed one of our warships out off San Diego again, with drones. And it's all documented. And I got to give a shout out to this outfit called the War Zone. This is a blog that gets really into military tech. This author, Tyler Rojaway. Yeah, I think it's legit. This is where unfortunately, the only information I could find about any of this stuff was on the internet. So I have to take it all with a grain of salt. But they do some really amazing reporting, the War Zone. And they even describe getting their information from Freedom of Information Act requests, FOIAs. Mm-hmm. So they're doing firsthand reporting, and he describes this drone. There's no other way to describe it. A drone attack on a U.S. destroyer outfit, where they actually got the ship's logs through a FOIA request. And that's how they were able to do it. And this Tyler Rojaway, is talking all about how drones are this incredible asymmetrical way that a foreign adversary could kind of circumvent our technology. And he has come to the conclusion that that's what's going on. That these UAPs that they're seeing, these pilots are seeing, are attempts to gather intelligence by a foreign adversary using low-tech technology like drones. And how much time we got until the next segment?
Oh, we have about 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes. And so let me see, how can I tease this? So two of the objects that the pilots are describing are one's a circular, a orb, a sphere with a cube in it that's just flying around. Have you heard about this?
Where's the propulsion system?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
drone has to have propulsion.
And they talk about how these things just sit there hovering for 3 or 4 hours, and they fly by it over and over again. And in some cases, they've nearly ran into them. And these are eyeball witnesses from Navy pilots. And what kind of an object that defies all laws of physics, right?
Yeah,
nothing. Where's the fuel source? How can you do?
Unless kind it's quantum or something.
What kind of an object can sit there and hover for 4 hours with no propulsion system? Is there anything like that on Earth that we've come up with so far?
I can't think.
There is.
Is there?
It's pretty low tech too.
Well, okay. Let's talk more about that and describe this technology right after the break. All right, everybody, we are back with the Science Nights in the Morning. Dr. Sean Graham about to drop a bomb on us with this mysterious technology that has no propulsion system, can float and just hover for 3 or 4 hours and just propel itself in midair. Now,
and then rapidly disappear.
Which is absolutely this is insane to me, because my drone that I have, I mean, it's a Mavic DJI Mavic Pro 2, and it has your propulsion system. It has a beautiful propulsion system, but the thing is, it only goes for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
At a time. I have so many batteries for that thing, and I have to bring it back, and then the controller, the remote, I mean, I got to charge that thing too. So it's like a constant struggle to get good shots and also have, enough power to put it up in the air. What on earth could be doing this and not have a power source?
Hours on end, and then immediately disappear.
Yeah.
Well, a balloon can do that.
A balloon. A balloon, huh?
A balloon could be tethered. So here, let's talk about David Fravor.
Okay.
The F-18. A disturbance in the ocean.
Okay.
A disturbance in the ocean. Something bouncing back and forth and then circling and then disappearing. A submarine emerges, comes close to the surface, releases a balloon, potentially tethered to the submarine, bouncing back and forth in the wind.
Wow.
That being released. And now, look, there are patents out there for balloons that actually have drone-like propulsion systems, but they're up under the balloon. So you wouldn't be able to see them unless you got a really good angle. And then, how does the balloon immediately disappear? It pops.
It pops. And then you don't see it. And the balloon doesn't have to be the size of an F-18 Hornet. It could be it could be 6 feet long, and if you've never seen something like that before, it would look like it's, the distance would be kind of hard to tell exactly what the size was looking at. And the Go Fast video is a good example of that. It's a small balloon that they thought was a big object close to the ocean, but it was actually a small balloon that was at 13,000 feet between them and the ocean. And so balloons can do this. And here, look, I'm not sitting here telling you that this isn't scary, because this means that somebody, one of our enemies, is screwing around, releasing these balloons, gathering data on our military, using low-tech technology, and we don't know who it is. Well, actually, probably the U.S. military by now has gathered one of these things, and they probably know damn well who it is. And here's the thing. Here's some amazing reporting that came out of the war zone. Okay.
A couple things that make all this.
What's the war zone, first off?
The war zone is that blog that this author, Tyler Rogeway, has gone deep down. Read all of his articles. You'll just be blown away that this isn't being carried by the mainstream media. It's unbelievable because it all adds up. And it is a little bit scary. So first of all, most of these events seem to be occurring when we deploy new technology.
Oh.
So the big deployment in 2004, where the F-18s saw the FLIR object and we saw the Tic Tac, we were trying out new tech and we were doing new maneuvers, and all of a sudden these things are everywhere and they're doing weird things, and it's because they're scrambling and they're jamming our radar and they're giving false signatures. The reason why they can just suddenly show up on radar and then show up immediately 60 miles away, that could be because of a dual balloon release. And why are they doing it? It's because we're going after these objects and we're pointing all of our new fancy radar at them, and they're gathering data. They're gathering data to see how good the radar is.
It's exactly what they want.
In 2014, same thing. They deployed a new radar outfit, a new radar pod, and all of a sudden they're being surrounded by all of these crazy looking balloons. The spherical balloon with a cube in the middle. This guy dug up a patent from 1949.
Whoa! What?
Of a U.S. inventor who came up with a radar reflector that would be inside the balloon, because normal weather balloons do have a radar reflector so that planes don't fly into them, and so they're visible through radar. But somebody thought, why not put the reflector inside the balloon? And you know what it looks like? It looks like a sphere with a cube in it.
Wow. Good Lord.
The U.S. military did this in 1963 for the Russians. They released a bunch of little objects during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Wow.
And gathered a ton of data on the Russians' radar capabilities using basically balloons.
Wow.
The Russians were like pointing the radar at it. They thought a flight group was coming at them. And they were like, hey, what's this? And then we realized through that our current stealth technology would not be completely effective against the Russians. So they had to go back to the drawing board, and they had to get the SR-71 built.
That is awesome.
Yes, all this has precedent, and so somebody's doing it. Here's an even more delectable thing. Here's what really nails it down for me. They got, through a Freedom of Information Act request, other reports from pilots of objects, UAPs, through the 2014 period. Besides the videos, these are just reports. And they got 10 reports back. And they do not describe weird tic-tac-like objects. They don't describe spheres. You know what they describe? Obvious UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles that were out there.
Yeah.
Cylindrical objects with wings.
Right.
More traditional objects that they still could not identify. They weren't our UAVs. They were unmarked, and they were just white drones flying out there in restricted U.S. airspace during maneuvers when they're testing out their new technology. And who was doing that? Who knows? They were unmarked. But it wasn't us. And the pilots themselves couldn't identify them. And that's the interesting thing. Those mundane reports where they're just saying, hey, we saw drones and we don't know who they are, those aren't being reported by the media.
Right.
And those lead to the conclusion that Tyler Rojaway of the War Zone comes to, that somebody is using low-tech drones and balloons to spy on us and to gather data on our new tech. And he's worried. He's literally, 8 years ago, he predicted that the next 9/11, the next Pearl Harbor, will be swarms of enemy drones.
Oh, jeez.
And that the U.S. military has totally dropped the ball in terms of the threat of drones. And that's why they're not releasing all of their really neat videos that show crazy new drones of our enemies. They're only releasing 3 garbage videos that they've already explained. They know it's a problem. And, it's taking Luis Elizondo and it's taking David Fravor, the F-18 pilot, coming out saying that this is a problem, saying that they're seeing things that they can't explain, for the military to do anything about it. And that's what's going on.
What a rabbit hole.
They don't like to admit their mistakes, and they'll keep things secret. And this is basically an intelligence failure. Another one. Somebody is out there, probably the Chinese or the Russians. My guess at this point is the Russians are running circles around us. And, man, I think about it. I think about swarms of drones. I think they could neutralize our nearly our entire nuclear triad, right?
Oh, yeah.
if an ICBM is launched from the west coast of the United States at Vandenberg Air Force Base, and there's 50,000 drones with a hand grenade attached to them to swarm it and blow it up before it ever leaves the launch pad.
Yeah.
To shoot down the hole of the launch pad.
Right.
These things can be released from submarines. They can be released from cargo ships. They can be released from international waters and fly all the way to Vandenberg. So presumably, even the Iranians have drones that can fly longer than your drone, right?
Wow.
And you can make a balloon drone. You can do that. They can take advantage of the amazing capacity for balloons to hover for hours on end and wait. Right? Wait just off the coast and then fly on in and blow up our ICBMs. It's crazy.
So kids, go to school. Keep playing your video games. Get really proficient at that, and be a drone pilot and defend our country one day. Hopefully, maybe we'll see. What do you think? What do you think the future entails?
Swarms of drones. I do think that this is again, we've kind of caused this by going so far ahead of everybody in terms of our Air Force capability and our technology. We've forgotten that there are always these asymmetrical ways that you can counter any kind of new thing. And cheap drones, even the Iranians have these cheap drones that can do amazing things. And so beware of drones.
Wow.
Look to the skies. Keep looking to the skies.
This is backcountry, as Hunter S. Thompson would say. So anyway, well, that is another episode of the Science Nights in the Morning. I love it, Sean. Thank you so much for being brave and being on here solo with me, man. And you answered a lot of questions. Now I'm wanting to go down a rabbit hole or two. Check out the War Zone. It's amazing stuff. Check out Tyler Ojaway's reporting. It's nuts. You'll love it. Eat it up. It's like candy. All right, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Talk to you next time.
Yep. We'll see you next time on the Science Nights in the Morning. Thanks for listening to this episode of Science Nights in the Morning. Be sure and follow us on Patreon for exclusive gear and uncut episodes. Check out the latest science articles on our Facebook page and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favorite podcast listening app. You can also listen every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time at BigBenRadio.com. And if you got a question, we'll join the discussion. Hit the hotline at 432-217-1983 and record your message. We couldn't do this without you, and thank you so much for listening each and every week. That's Science Nights in the Morning with a K, and we'll see you next time.